Hello, and welcome to Season 11, Episode 33 of That There Ubuntu podcast. It's Tuesday, the 23rd of October, and we're going to discuss what's been happening in the news and the community. I'm Alan. Hello. And joining me this week is Mark. Hello, Mark.
Hello, I'm back.
Yay, how's your throat?
It's better. My voice is back to normal. I no longer sound like a cross between Barry White and a bag of gravel, which is nice.
Good. That's super convenient because Martin's being a slacker and he's off doing a work trip.
Gallivanting again.
Yes, gallivanting to Salt Lake City. And we are delighted to have as a guest presenter this week the lovely Jessie. Hello, Jessie. How are you?
Hello, both. I'm very well, thank you.
Super. Other people may know you from, well, a previous guest appearance on this podcast, I think. Have we had you on before?
You haven't. I've been mesmerised by your show notes and things. So
oh my
it's
gosh.
my first time.
So the only place they might know you from is Late Night Linux.
Yes.
You've also been on stage with us at Odd Camp, I think.
Yes, that's true.
That other event we do.
Awesome.
Talk Live. There we go.
So a question we always ask our guests, what have you been up to, Jessie? I mean, like since the never having been on this show, what have you been up to recently?
Well, break into houses. I felt to get into the mood, the spirit, I should obviously break into Martin's house, sit at his desk, use his internet, drink his beer, and it's a lovely place to be. You know, Martin's got it pretty sorted around here.
Yes.
So that was the obvious thing to do.
You don't think his wife or daughter might be a little bit upset that you're in his house right now?
I've been very quiet, and I've
well done.
Made sure I only drink one beer. So this week, or this time, I've been playing with Volumio, which is a sort of local internet or network radio player, if you will. So I have a young child, and some friends of ours bought us a bunch of those CDs that are the, like, good music but made for nursery rhyme type things. So they're all done on xylophones and what have you. And no one uses a CD, so I've got a little Raspberry Pi, stripped apart a Bluetooth speaker box and put Volumio on there, and now it's just got a play button and a skip button, so you can start it and skip the tracks. And you go onto the local website on your phone and look at the tracks and set up playlists and things. It's really smart.
Wow. I had no idea this existed. So it's like your own little personal Spotify, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and all you have to do is give the missus the IP address of the local IP, and it just pops up there as a website, and she can change tracks and things, and change the volume and whatever you can. Get different plugins to have things like Spotify or radio or podcasts or what have you. But I just want this to be nice and simple and play and pause, basically.
Cool.
Nice.
And they've got some interesting kit on the website as well. It looks like it's designed to be run on different sorts of devices.
Yeah, you can really go far and get some proper DACs and try and get some professional sounding things. Now the Raspberry Pi is never going to be the best sounding thing.
Yeah.
But for, like I say, a Glockenspiel's the wooden one.
Yeah, I think so.
I meant Glockenspiels.
What's the name of it? Is it's Dr. something or Mr. something, the CDs you've got? What brand name is it? I vaguely remember these from like 10, 15 years ago when my kids were small, and there's a brand name for these things. They're classical music, aren't they? Popular classics.
There are, but banging them in and ripping them and then putting them onto the USB was what I needed to do. Right.
And you're now being subjected to the sound of these as well.
Yes.
Great.
Although when it's good music, it's not so bad. And also, because you can't read or know what the song is, it's a bit of a guessing game.
Right.
So is that Metallica or is that Iron Maiden? Which one's this?
I think there is a limit to the amount of Glockenspiel I want in my life, though, really, to be fair. Mark, what have you been up to?
I've been playing a game using DXVK.
What's that then?
So DXVK is the translation layer for running DirectX 10 and 11 games using Vulkan graphics.
Is this that Proton lark?
It isn't that Proton lark in this case. So DXVK is one of the things that Proton uses to let you play Windows games on Steam, but I've been playing Diablo 3, which is a non-Steam game, which meant I had to set up DXVK myself.
Like some kind of barbarian?
Yeah. So this was just me installing Wine and then reading through the instructions and downloading DXVK. There's a tool we've discussed before called Lutris, which is like a,
I think Lutris is how they pronounce
which is,
it. But
like a open source Steam alternative for managing and launching games, and that has some integration for DXVK for doing the configuration. Although you do still have to download it yourself. It doesn't seem like it's outside of Proton. It doesn't seem like it's actually packaged for anything.
I have seen mention that you can extract the Wine configuration from Steam Play that contains all the DXVK and Proton stuff and just drop it in Play on Linux and use it there.
Oh, right. Well, it's not actually that complicated. You download the latest version and you extract it somewhere, and then you just run a special Winetricks command. Winetricks is a utility for doing various useful things with wine to make particular games run. So you run a particular Winetricks command and point it at where your wine prefix is, and it sets up that environment for you with DXVK. And it does seem to just work. Like, I didn't have to do any faffing around. I just ran the command it said, and I played my game and made sure it was using DXVK, and it was.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty funky.
Yeah.
Good to know. All right, let's get on with everything. And now it's time for some news. And first up in the news, over to our guest presenter, Jesse. What's new in the news, Jesse?
Well, you know how sometimes you walk into a shop and everything's been relabeled and you're not quite sure why or when this happened? This is my public service news that Wi-Fi is moving from all the letters that you know and recognise to a number format. So
what? I don't like this already.
I always thought the letters were a bit confusing. I mean, they were, as far as I could see, random, and then they went from G and N, like nice one letters, to two, AC, and the new one AX. And it's actually the support for this, Wi-Fi 6, which is the AX, has been added in 4.19 of the kernel. So that's kind of where this news story came from. And digging a bit deeper, I wonder what this Wi-Fi 6 was, and the people who own Wi-Fi and make sure that everyone agrees that Wi-Fi is a good idea have decided that the letters were too confusing. Let's go to a nice, easy, incremental number system, and then everyone knows where we are. And you know that if you've got 6, it's better than 5, it's better than 4, etc.
I found the lack of sequence in the letters confusing. Going B, G, N, A. I got completely lost as to where these numbers were coming from or what they meant. Letters were coming from or what they meant.
But even the numbers don't work very well for things like GSM and LTE, and you've got 3G, 4G, and then there's potentially 5G, but then there's like 3.5G. It's like numbers aren't a panacea either.
Once marketing people get their hands on the standard names, it does tend to go out the window a bit.
So is this going to be retrospective then? So 6 is the new one, and they're going to back name them, the previous ones.
Well, I think if you're going to go into the shop and buy a box, it would obviously have to have G and 3 because no one is going to recognise 3. But if you've got it marketed as 6, you can't say this is 6 is better than G. So I feel it's one of those.
I'm pretty sure 6 is better than G, definitely.
It's going to be one of those phases where there's a mess of numbers and letters, but as everyone forgets, I mean, do people still use G?
I honestly have no idea what Wi-Fi I use. I just don't know. I bought a box, I put some software on it, and I get Wi-Fi, and all my devices work, and that's it. I don't know what standard. I don't know what speed. I don't know what I don't know nothing. I hate this stuff. I really do. I don't know which one is which, and so actually these numbers are marketed towards me because I don't know, and I don't want to know, and I don't care. I just want faster internets. I need a higher number. Not, 802.11 point some IEEE standard document that I was supposed to read. That's just ridiculous. So I fully approve of this, even though it's change and I don't like change. I approve. What's next, Mark?
Well, on the last show, I should say, I wasn't here, but you and Martin spoke about the Linux Code of Conduct being adopted and Linus taking a break. Well, our fearless leader has returned.
Hooray!
From his time in the wilderness. So basically a whole lot of stuff has happened since then. Greg Crow-Hartman has been working in the background while the peanut gallery has been throwing their peanuts, as they do, getting on with things and writing the Code of Conduct interpretation document, which kind of explains this isn't going to be used to retrospectively go through the Git log and find everyone who's ever infringed on the new code of conduct and kick them out.
Right.
And, how they intend to enforce it if they have to. And setting up a new code of conduct committee, which includes an independent mediator and all sorts of sensible things like this, which weren't necessarily apparent or well defined in the first place.
Is that because the code of conduct was rushed? Is that why they're having to write a document that tells you?
There has been some talk about that. It was the reason that it happened when it did was partly because there was an article being posted in the
New Yorker.
I wasn't sure whether it was the New Yorker or the New York Times. The New Yorker about this, which it was trying to preempt. So yeah, it was done in a bit of a rush, and yeah, some amendments have been made to the code of conduct itself since then as well. There's a good write-up on Linux Weekly News for subscribers to Linux Weekly News, which kind of covers what happened at the Open Source Summit with regards to this and some of the things that Linus has said now that he's back in the saddle.
Yeah, it seems like this was rushed, but it was preemptive strike to get the code of conduct in there because there was this hit piece about him. And some people felt that this code of conduct was the beginning of the end, and it's a thin end of the wedge and all those other kind of cliched phrases when things change. It kind of makes sense. And even Greg said that they've only had to invoke the previous code of conduct, which has been around for ages. They only had to invoke it 3 times. And even then it wasn't really legitimate the times that it was invoked. So it's not like they're the kind of people who go around, beating people up for saying certain words. But actually I did find it interesting that Linus has now said he's put a bad words filter on his email to try and help him not send naughty emails to people.
But how can they not pick up what he's been saying through the code of conduct? Are you allowed to just be, blast out generally?
They're saying it's not going to be retrospective. It's from this point forward, new code of conduct. He's a changed man. He's done some personal development.
But what I mean is they had a previous code of conduct, yet he never got pulled up on it.
Wow. Yeah, good point. Did he? I mean, did he really? I don't know. Maybe behind the scenes they did. People were pulling him up under the code of conduct, and the people, as Greg said, thought it wasn't legitimate. I don't know. It's interesting that whenever excuses were made for Linus's behavior in the past, they were always saying that he was criticizing the work and not the person. But if you're the recipient of one of those emails, it really can feel like you're the person being attacked.
Exactly. That's the thing is, it's, I suppose it's what Linus has said about a lack of empathy. I mean, it's fine to say, I wasn't saying that you were a pile of rubbish. I was saying your work was a pile of rubbish. But if you've put a lot of time and effort into that work and you care about it, then it feels exactly the same.
Right.
Yes. But alongside this, while this has been going on, Richard Stallman has had his thinking cap on and has come up with the GNU Kind Communication Guidelines.
Oh.
This is an alternative approach to a code of conduct. Basically, he says that you shouldn't tell people how to behave and be punitive about it. You should try and encourage and foster a nicer way of behaving and try and be as inclusive as possible, because it's a nice thing to do and encourages more contributors from a more diverse background who might be feeling excluded otherwise. I think it's quite well written. It has a few oddities in it, but it's good to see another approach as well.
Yes, it wouldn't be a document from Stallman without a few oddities here and there, like the NSA thing at the top of the email. But yes. Anyway, good news. Also in good news, Motorola have partnered with iFixIt to help customers repair their devices. This is good news.
Oh,
yeah. It's kind of piggybacking or supporting the right to repair movement. Mm-hmm. They've partnered with iFixIt to provide parts and tools so customers can repair their devices. Now, obviously, some people were repairing devices already, and but this makes it kind of more official and makes it more legitimate that you can buy official parts from a recognized hardware vendor for phones that you've bought, and maybe you've cracked the screen, or maybe the touch screen's broken or the battery's dead. You can actually buy the tools and the parts, including the battery, the screen, and the digitizer, actually fix the thing yourself and not have to upgrade to a new phone just because you dropped the phone or the battery's now on its last legs. I think this is fantastic.
It's really good to actually be able to know that you're getting a genuine part rather than, something off, Alibaba
eBay.
or eBay that says 100% genuine, honest, and for a fact that it definitely isn't.
And who out of you has little plastic things for pulling apart phones?
Yes.
Yeah, I do. And actually recently, in fact, I have an iFixIt kit, a branded one that I bought to take apart a Mac, I think, some time ago. But I recently bought a part off eBay for my phone because this wasn't an option, this, partnership with iFixIt. I bought a replacement camera for my OnePlus 3T. And I haven't got around to fitting it because I'm too scared to take it apart because I'll just break it. I don't have the right screwdrivers to take it apart. I thought I bought a kit that had everything in it, but the screwdrivers were rubbish because they were from eBay. And so they've all worn down and they're no good for actually taking the phone apart. So I actually have that need to replace a part in a phone because the camera's failed on my phone. But I just can't muster up I keep meaning to take it into the local phone repair shop and hand them my phone and this little plastic bag with a camera in it and go, can you please put these two things together and fix it? But yeah, I just can't muster up the courage to do it myself because I know I'll destroy the phone in the process probably.
Well, I broke my old S3 screen, but I'd already bought my new phone. I had the S3 as a backup phone and I was playing with it and I broke it. So it didn't matter if I could or couldn't fix it. I did exactly as you did, bought the fix-it parts and bought the replacement screen off of eBay. And because I had a bit of a gung-ho attitude, you just sort of go at it and it worked. Whereas it's one of the things that had it been my primary phone and I've been really careful, I'd have ballsed it up and I'd be really annoyed. But this article, as you said, is good that it's a big-ish manufacturer, I think we can say, providing parts that they say for the iFixIt bits and bobs, these are exactly what you will need to fix, whatever phone it is, but also the replacement parts for those phones, because I think that's where you can come unscrewed if you buy a screen is an important part, a camera is an important part, a battery. You want them to last long, look good, work well, and you don't always get that when you buy them. Well, you basically buy them on the black market, aren't you?
Mm-hmm. I mean, this is in stark contrast to recent developments that have happened on iPhones and Mac devices where Apple have been seen to potentially overcharge people for repairs. And there's a big brouhaha in the States where Louis Rossmann had some genuine parts taken from him, or at the point at which they came into the country, they were delivered into the country. They were then confiscated by Homeland Security or whatever the department, 3-letter department that confiscate batteries. And he was incensed because these are devices that actually Apple won't repair anymore because they're seen as legacy devices. So you can't take this device to an Apple shop and get it repaired. You have to go to a third party, and Apple block the third party from being able to buy the parts. So you have to upgrade. So this as an alternative is fantastic. It's a great different strategy from, you will use our Genius Bar or buy a new device. It's fantastic. I love it. Jesse, you had a little bit of news about KDE, I think.
Yeah, it hurts me to have to say it. So KDE have added scaling of GTK apps that are running on KDE. So they're just putting the pieces together so that the GTK apps will look along the right size and scale alongside their KDE brethren or whatever you. And it brings me to a point that I wanted to ask people who maybe have more interface with newer technology, because I have my laptop and it connects up to a 1080p screen, and that used to be the bells and whistles. And now I quite often move things back to my laptop screen because it's a higher DPI. And they look, if I'm looking at photos, where they look better, it's crisper than my monitor. And I've been thinking, shall I upgrade to a nice, shiny, high-res monitor? And you get all these different reviews about whether GTK is doing well or KDE or whatever distro you select. And my question really is this. Irrespective of the screen you have in front of you, like the one that's bolted to your laptop or the one that you have for your PC, do these screen scaling things work well when you're using a second screen. You've got two different resolutions. You've got new and old tech working together. Have either of you had experience of that?
I specifically avoided that by only buying 1080p screens. So my laptop has the built-in 1080p screen, and then I bought two external 1080p screens for exactly this problem that I didn't want to have. I don't want to have two completely different size, a window like changing size as I move it, or changing DPI as I move it from one screen to another, because frankly, the technology is not ready yet. And I've seen demos of, windows being dragged on Wayland from one display to another, where one's high DPI and the other one isn't, and the window stays exactly the right size and all the controls are in the right place. But we're not there yet. That's demos. And I actually need to use my device today. Yeah. I'm not buying a device to use in a year's time. I want to use it today. So I actually opted out of that problem by only buying 1080p screens. Also, I'm cheap. So,
okay. Yeah, if you're using the word demo, it sounds like I need to go and change my Christmas list.
Yeah. I'm even cheaper than Alan. I've got one external monitor, which I've had for about 10 years. And I had it with... So I think it's a 17-inch monitor, which is something like 1400 by 900. So it's not high DPI. And I used to have a laptop which was smaller than it and lower resolution than it. And now I've got a laptop that's smaller than it and higher resolution than it. So I've got a high DPI or higher DPI monitor on my laptop that's smaller. And then I drag stuff up to the external display and the windows get bigger and less crisp. Yeah, but to be honest, grainy. I just kind of get on with it. I mean, it's not perfect, but I can still. I don't think, oh God, what's going on? No, it looks slightly less good than it did. It's just the window's there and I can read the text. So to be honest, on a day-to-day basis, I don't do like graphics or stuff like that. So it doesn't really affect me.
I think going back to the story, I think it's interesting that KDE are adding scaling to GTK apps, because I've often found that on KDE, non-Qt, non-KDE apps look at home, or relatively at home on KDE, whereas on other desktops, like on GNOME GTK-based desktops, it's the Qt apps that look out of place. So it's nice to see that the KDE guys are working on making sure that they're agnostic in terms of what toolkit is used, and that your applications, whatever you choose, would look good, which is great, because lots of people are creating GTK apps in Electron. Haha. So yeah, that's good news. I think that's all the news we've got for today. Let's move on. And now it's time for a bit of community news. And first up, Mark, what's in the community news?
Well, the big community news this week is that Ubuntu 18.10 has been released.
Massive community news, you mean? Yes. Well, is it? It's not an LTS.
It's not an LTS, so I'm not upgrading.
Yeah. What do you do, Jesse? Do you stick to LTSs, or what are you running these days?
I'm on stock Ubuntu, and I'll upgrade.
Yeah, you like?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that by the time the next LTS comes out, I feel that it's too long in the tooth. But the first non-LTS isn't long enough for it for me to be feeling those long in the tooth type vibes.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you're going to upgrade halfway through, you might as well upgrade at the start and then follow each upgrade and then do the LTS.
Well, you kind of have to, don't you? Because the 9-month support of the interim releases means you really need to keep up to date with every interim
technicalities.
Release. Yeah. Yes. What's in this?
Well, one thing in particular, obviously there's the newer kernel and the newer drivers. And one of the things that's come in with the newer kernel, I believe, is the native support for the Steam controller. So there's now support without having to have Steam running. There's now actual support for the Steam controller in the kernel itself.
So does that mean if you're running games that are not Steam, like GOG or whatever?
Yes. And I mean, previously there's been tools to enable this. But it just means that there's one less, and I think this was actually contributed by Valve as well. So it's really, really good low level support for this stuff, which hopefully means that it will then be in the hardware enablement kernel for 1804 when that's released. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that'll be in the new year, I guess.
Yes.
Awesome. There's also a new theme, the new Yaru theme.
Oh yeah, that's
one thing that didn't make it was the GS Connect, which is like the KDE Connect Android connector thing. It was seen as not ready yet. And I think the upstream author said they were doing a rewrite anyway. So they decided to not bake it in, but put it in the archive so people can install it if they want to.
Good, because both of those things I have on mine. The community theme, now Yaru is excellent. And the GS Connect is good fun. There's a couple of little quirks, but you get used to them. It's
excellent. Good. Oh, I'll have to give that a try. I use KDE Connect on my laptop, so I'll have to try the GS Connect as well. Awesome. What's next, Jesse?
So, sticking with Canonical, they have published their desktop statistics for 1804. And the warming thing is the very first graph is how many users opted in. And it was 2/3 of people, which I think is a good proportion. I think it reflects how well Canonical and Ubuntu did at promoting the fact that your data wasn't being shared. It wasn't being... it wasn't able to track you or anything. And so people felt free to give it.
It's interesting which side of the fence you're on, because if you're on the other side of the fence and you believe that they shouldn't have gathered this data, people are like, a whole third of people said they didn't want it, therefore you should not have gathered it. So yeah, it
is interesting that a third of people opted out and they recorded that they opted out. Presumably you shouldn't know.
No, it sends a ping. When you say no, it sends an empty ping so that we can tell who opted in. Because look, if everyone opted out, if that number was like 5% opted in, then we'd probably have to rethink whether we were doing this at all. But the fact that 2/3 of them said, yeah, okay, I'll send it, then that probably says it was a good idea to do it.
Okay, fair enough.
But yeah, there's some interesting stats in there. Some stuff we've already seen from the blog post that Will did a little while back. Interesting stuff about, what screen resolutions are most popular and pixel densities and how many CPUs people have and all that kind of good stuff. But yeah, it's interesting information that it's now out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the fact that 98% of them are running 64-bit CPUs, I think sort of is a good example of why you hear week in, week out of different projects dropping 32-bit support.
Well, yeah, but 1804 only had a 64-bit ISO, and a lot of people do clean installs. So given that there wasn't an easy way for you to get a 32-bit install, that's a self-fulfilling prophecy, that one.
Well, that's a very biased graph then. I got some feedback.
Yeah, send it to Will. And also, finally, in the community news, some guy has ported Ubuntu Mate to the GPD Pocket 1 and 2. Huh. Who could this be? Martin was busy recently. He's created a bespoke artisanal build of Ubuntu Mate for these tiny little handheld devices. They're little PCs, like smaller than a netbook. He's talked about them before. They're little aluminium unibody almost kind of design computers with touch screens, and he's made bespoke images for them. And they apparently also work on some other device that looks like the GPD Pocket but isn't the GPD Pocket. Something like a Topjoy Bimble Bomb or something. I can't remember what it was called, but I think it's called a Topjoy. But the thing that I found interesting is Martin has also published the source code for the script that he wrote to make those images. So if you want to make custom images, there's a good bit of code there for you to learn how to do that. So cool. That's very good of him. Yeah, I think that's all the community news.
If you're in the US, you can give us a hand by leaving us a rating on Google Play Podcasts to tell others what you think of the Ubuntu podcast.
Oh my gosh, that's the end of episode 33. That went fast.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us, Jesse.
That's quite right. These fly by, don't they?
Yeah.
They do, don't they? That's what happens when you do like a tight show with only 30 minutes. Well, it's about 33 minutes, but about 30 minutes. Yeah, it flies by. You're going to hang around for the next one?
If you invite me back next week, yes.
Oh, yeah. I think you'll be all right. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
What are we going to do next week? We'll have some feedback and command line love, and also we're going to do a kind of first look review of the Clockwork Pi game shell and chat about some retro stuff.
Cool.
So we'll see you next time. Ah.